Let me ask you, though, Mr. Foreign Minister, the end game. Because the fact is, there is no clarity on how all of this is going to end. It's 2 months and counting. The Russians are continuing with their bombardment. US military aid to Ukraine has gone up to over 3 billion. There have been sanctions imposed, and yet Russia is not being deterred. In fact, there is a belief that Mr. Putin has set May 9th as the deadline by which he wants to win the war. That was the anniversary of the Russian defeat of Nazi Germany. Do you see any of this being a deterrent, whether India does it or the West does it? Is there any deterrent for someone like Mr. Putin? What is the end game, Mr. Foreign Minister?
The end game is the victory of Ukraine. I have no doubts in that, and I cannot even suggest an alternative scenario, because if Ukraine loses this war, Ukraine will cease to exist. And I would like to remind that for many years, Ukraine has been a good friend of India. We had excellent trade. Our exports of sunflower oil now blocked by the Russian aggression and Russian mines in the Black Sea. These exports to India were flourishing and raising and increasing from year to year. Indian students, they were an integral part of Ukrainian society, and we very much appreciated them becoming a part of our country. So all this was destroyed by the Russian aggression, and we have to restore it. Together, if we join efforts, we will. We want to continue building democratic Ukraine, open to the world, trading with all nations. Yes, there are moments in history when you have to make tough decisions, to reorient your economy, to choose the right partners. And I think that the moment for that has come. I respect the Indian government, Indian sovereignty. They are free to make their decisions in the way they understand national security interests of India. But I hope my interview helped to clarify what is the right direction in which decisions should be made.
You know, you're making very important points, Mr. Foreign Minister. You're also saying the end game must be the victory of Ukraine. You're calling it a victory of democracy over authoritarianism. However, when we interviewed the Russian Foreign Minister, Mr. Lavrov, he seemed to suggest that the plan was to free up eastern and southern Ukraine, especially the Donbass region over which Russia is claiming control, and then have referendums and virtually free up Ukraine and divide your country as a result. Do you believe that that is a real threat? Do you see that again as just Russian bravado, or do you believe they could actually slice your country apart as they are claiming and pound eastern and southern Ukraine and claim that they are now independent?
Well, I would like to recall that the initial plan of the Russian war against Ukraine was to capture Kiev and celebrate victory in at least 3 days. Now we are in the 3rd month of war, and Russia is contained in the east and in the south of Ukraine, while we won the critical battle for Kiev. So Russia can make its own plans, but we have ours, and we know how to implement them. However, I have to be very clear and honest about it. I represent a country at war, a country that suffers from war crimes and immense destruction of our economy. And under these circumstances, when countries prefer to stay neutral in this situation, it means only one thing. Ukraine will still win, but at a much higher cost. Standing by Ukraine, not choosing neutrality, would mean that Ukraine will win, saving many more lives of civilians, saving many more cities and villages from being destroyed, and preventing more atrocities as the ones committed by Russia in Bucha and elsewhere. So I call on everyone to be very pragmatic under these circumstances and analyze the picture in full. The easiest thing is to be neutral, but thinking 1-2 steps ahead, I think it's clear that it makes much more sense to take the right side and to be on the right side of history.
But when you say right side of history, I would like to ask you, Mr. Foreign Minister, are you looking for more military aid? Are you looking for feet on the ground? Do you want NATO to get involved? Because that could then escalate it into a third world war as the Russians are threatening. Are you looking at, what are you specifically looking at that you believe will end this war quickly? Because otherwise, we seem to be heading for a prolonged conflict, Mr. Foreign Minister, with the Russians not backing off just yet.
I would like again to remind you that this war began in 2014 with Russia illegally annexing Crimea and launching the war in Donbass. Never, not a single time since 2014, Ukraine asked for foreign boots on the ground. This makes Ukraine very different from other countries in the world who cannot fight themselves and ask foreign countries to step in and do the fighting for them. We are not like them. We know how to fight. We have very committed soldiers. We know how to win. We do not ask anyone to fight for us. But the fair deal that we are offering to the entire world is simple. You provide Ukraine with everything that we need to fight, meaning weapons, meaning sanctions, meaning political isolation of Russia, and we will do the rest of the job. We will fight, we will win.
But you've lost, millions of Ukrainians have had their homes destroyed, 5 million leaving the country. How long can Ukraine fight? It's quite remarkable how you've stood up to the Russians, but how long can you hold on, in your view, Mr. Foreign Minister?
Again, on the eve of the war, in the very last days preceding the war, there were very few countries in the world who believed that Ukraine would win. Even our closest friends, they had doubts Ukraine would sustain the pressure. And we are in the third month of war. We stopped the second largest army in the world. I want to make it clear. And the last point, let me return this question to you. What if someone attacks India? How long will you be able to sustain? How long are you going to fight? I'm sure you will fight until the end, until you prevail, because you fight for your country, for your land, for your people. This is exactly the feeling that we have. We want this war to come to an end as quickly as possible, but this end will not be the defeat of Ukraine. It will be the victory of Ukraine.